let's be honest, watering your plants feels like the simplest chore in the world, right? Pour water, plant happy. But what if I told you the secret to a really thriving houseplant is actually hiding in some pretty mind-blowing physics? Yeah, let's dig in.
It's a fantastic question, and one you see all over the internet. I mean, think about it. In nature, rain only ever comes from the sky. So why on earth do so many experienced gardeners swear by plopping their pots in a tray of water and letting them drink from the bottom up? It seems completely backward, but it turns out there's some serious science behind it. And to get to the bottom of it, pun intended, we first need to talk about your morning coffee. You know when you dunk a biscuit and the coffee just seems to defy gravity, climbing right up into it? Well, that everyday little moment, that's a perfect window into a powerful physical force at work. Now, scientists have a fancy name for this: spontaneous imbibition. But we don't need to get that technical. For our purposes, we can just call it the dunking biscuit problem. The force making it all happen is called capillary action. It's the same magic that lets a paper towel suck up a spill, or in our case, lets water climb through all the tiny little gaps in the soil. Basically, water molecules are kind of sticky. They love to cling to each other, and they love to cling to the sides of tiny tubes, pulling themselves up, even against gravity. So what's really fascinating is how scientists actually study this. They don't just see a wet spot getting bigger, they see a measurable event. They track two key things: the average height the liquid climbs, which they call H of T, and how jagged or rough that advancing waterline gets, which they call W of T. For the longest time, everyone thought this process was super predictable. But as it turns out, that predictability was about to get completely flipped on its head. This is where we get into water's secret climb. In this really groundbreaking study, scientists used a special kind of imaging to watch water soak into a nanoporous glass. Think of it as a sponge with incredibly tiny, long, skinny pores. And what they saw, well, it broke all the rules. So in a normal material, like that paper towel, water moves up in a pretty smooth, even line. The edge gets a little rough, sure, but it happens slowly and predictably. But in this special glass with the long, skinny pores, the waterfront went completely wild. It was chaotic, moving up in these jagged, unpredictable bursts. The edge got rough shockingly fast. The scientists measured all this chaos with something called a growth exponent, which they labeled beta. Now, in normal stuff, beta is pretty low, around 0.19. But in their experiment, the beta was about 0.45. This might seem like a small difference, but in physics, this number was the smoking gun. And here's why that matters. A beta that high didn't just mean a minor difference. It meant they had discovered a whole new universality class. Okay, think of it like this. Scientists have fundamental rules for how things are supposed to behave, right? Well, they just found a material where the liquid plays by a totally different, much more chaotic set of rules. It's like discovering a new law of nature just for these very specific conditions. This was huge. It revealed a completely new class of chaos, hidden in the simple act of something getting wet. A really fundamental shift in how we understand the way liquids move.
All right, I know what you're thinking. That's some cool lab stuff, sure. But what on earth does a new universality class in nanoporous glass have to do with my poor, sad-looking fern at home? Well, the answer is hiding in the pot itself. According to the experts, like the UC Master Gardeners, when potting soil gets really, really dry, it can become hydrophobic. And that's just a fancy word meaning it starts to repel water instead of absorbing it. If you've ever watered a bone-dry plant and just watched the water rush down the sides of the pot and straight out the bottom, you've seen this happen. And the main culprit here is often peat moss. When it's nice and moist, it's fantastic at holding water. But when it dries out completely, its fine fiber structure physically changes. Its pores basically become long and skinny, just like that weird glass from the lab. All of a sudden, your potting soil starts behaving according to that new, chaotic class of physics, making it almost impossible to re-wet from the top. And that brings us right back to the great debate. With this new physics in our back pocket, we can finally settle the score. Top versus bottom watering. Okay, so let's break it down. Top watering is absolutely crucial. It's nature's way. It flushes out all the excess mineral salts from your tap water and fertilizer that can build up and burn the roots. But as we now know, it's pretty much useless on that dry, hydrophobic soil. Bottom watering, on the other hand, is the perfect solution for that specific problem. It uses pure capillary action to slowly, gently, and thoroughly rehydrate the soil from the bottom up. The downside, it doesn't flush out those salts. In fact, it can actually make them build up at the surface. So the verdict couldn't be clearer. This isn't a competition. You don't have to pick a side. Top watering and bottom watering aren't rivals. They're teammates. They're two different tools for two very different jobs, and a truly happy, healthy plant needs you to use both.
So now you have the knowledge. Let's put it into practice. Here's how you can start watering like a physicist.
First things first, feel the soil. Is it light as a feather and pulling away from the sides of the pot? It's probably hydrophobic. If that's the case, you need to bottom water. Set it in a sink or a tray of water for an hour or so until the soil on top feels moist. That's like a hard reset for your soil. Then, for most of your regular waterings, you're going to top water. And don't just sprinkle a little on top. Give it a proper drench until water is pouring out of the drainage holes. That drench is what flushes out those nasty salts. Just think of it like this. Bottom watering is your emergency fix, and top watering is your regular preventative maintenance.
So from a biscuit dunked in your coffee all the way to a thirsty plant in your living room, there's this deep connecting principle of physics woven into our daily lives. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing science is just hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to notice?